Oh my gosh, that was loud. Sorry, cow. That was a look. Hi guys, I'm Amy. Welcome back to my channel. Today I have another book haul, which I'm fully recognizing the fact that I just published / posted another book haul, a rather large book haul from like the last several months. But my husband and I were in Portland, Oregon this last weekend. He had bought me tickets to go see Michael Bublé for Christmas, and you know that if I am in Portland, I am not going to pass up on a visit to the mecca of bookstores here on the West Coast in the States called Powell's. It is an entire city block, multiple stories. You could absolutely lose yourself in there for days. It's absolutely fantastic, and these are the books that I purchased while I was there. I think one of these books is Aaron's. I had a plan for books that I wanted to look for while I was there, but of course I browsed and found some other things, and I only looked through the general fiction area because we had other things to go do, and so I decided to just stay in that zone, except for one exception in which we went to another area, and you'll see why when I chat about that book. But that was a very lengthy introduction. But if you guys are interested in the last few books that I picked up when I was shopping at Powell's, then go ahead and keep on watching. Also, I forgot to mention, Powell's is a used and new bookstore, and it's all intermixed, so you kind of have to look through the bunch to find the used ones, and all but one of these books, which is the one that my husband selected, were used, just because I tend to buy more used books than not. Now, the first book that I picked up is The Bees by Laline Powell, and this is a story that just sounds so intriguing to me. It is about a hive of bees, and we are following a bee by the name of Flora 717, who is a sanitation worker, and it sounds like she kind of starts a bit of an uprising in her hive. I just think the cover is really cool, and I've seen this book around booktube, but I don't know if I've ever heard anybody actually talk about it, but it just sounds different, and I like that about it, so I grabbed it because, I mean, for being a used book, it is in great shape. So yeah, it sounds like fun. Let me know if you guys have read this one. I'd love to know your thoughts. These next two books are the books that were from the only other section that I actually got a really good look at, and that was the middle grade and YA section. In the YA section, I picked up Protector of the Small by Tamara Pierce. This is the first book in the Protector of the Small series, which takes place in the overall land of Tortal, and it's about a girl who chooses to become a knight, and I'm just collecting all of her books in the editions in which I read them as a kid because I love her books a lot, and I highly recommend them, as I've said on my channel before. And I also picked up a copy of Nevermore, The Trials of Morgan Crowe by Jessica Townsend. I don't think this book needs an introduction or an explanation. It's been everywhere all over booktube. Y'all know that I enjoy middle grade books and fantasy, and this book has been getting a lot of buzz, and you know, all of those things check boxes for me that I'm excited to read it, and I'm excited to have a copy because it just sounds like so much fun, and we all need some fun in our lives, especially when we read a lot of literary fiction that is good but not always what you would call fun. The book Aaron picked up is Dune by Frank Herbert. This is like the sci-fi book of all sci-fi books. I really don't know anything about it. I'm sure he will read it eventually and probably try and convince me to read it or put it on a TBR for me. But this was his selection, as he happened to be very overwhelmed when we were in Powell's. This has happened in the past before because it is a large place with a lot of books and a lot of people. So this was his one pick, and then he was ready to go. Although I have to say, he didn't rush me. Bless him, because he's such a trooper, because I could have spent so much longer in there. But I was in there at least an hour and a half, and he hung in there, and this was his prize. I also brought home a copy of West by Karis Davies. This is a book that Doris at Aldi Books has absolutely raved about, and so I purposely went looking for this one during my shopping trip, and I believe this is a story that is kind of manifest destiny, there we go, that's what I want to say, in which a dad leaves his daughter behind, and it's about their separate journeys, and that I mean, this cover is stunning, and I love historical fiction. I've always been very intrigued by the concept of manifest destiny and how it affected people in so many different ways, and I'm really, really looking forward to getting to this one, hopefully soon, because it is really little, and that's like an easy one to mark into the unread to read category. This was one of the books I was not anticipating picking up while I was there, but was really happy to find it, and that is Vinegar Girl by Anne Tyler. This is, of course, a book from the Hogarth Shakespeare series, and this is the retelling of The Taming of the Shrew, which I have not read a ton of Shakespeare, but I loved reading The Taming of the Shrew when I read it in high school, and I can't remember if I reread it since, but it might be time for a reread. And I've really, to be honest with you, didn't even look at the back of this book until I got home, but it's about a preschool teacher, and I'm a preschool teacher, so I'm really excited about that, because I actually don't know if I've ever read a book specifically about a preschool teacher. But again, I loved the cover on this, because I've seen the hardback cover, I think, which is also really pretty. But what I'm really, really excited to get to, because I'm really curious to see how they're going to take such a kind of antiquated idea, Anne Tyler is going to take such an antiquated idea of the fact that Catherine, the whole goal was for her to be tamed, but in a modern spin, just because that's not something that people want to read or encourage. So I'm very, very curious about this one. And I also spotted Stern Men by Elizabeth Gilbert. You guys will know that I read The Signature of All Things by her last year, and it was one of my favorite books of 2018. And this is a story about lobster fishermen. Are they considered fishermen? And there's like a feud between these two families. I believe this takes place in Maine, yes, which is where Elizabeth Gilbert grew up. And I'm like, it just sounds really, really intriguing. I believe our main character is a young girl, or young woman, I guess I should say, in which she doesn't want to continue her schooling at a very fancy boarding school, but she wants to come and be one of the guys and be a fisherman and work on a lobster boat. And it just, that premise sounds so fascinating, and I'm really stoked about this one, because I mean, her writing is just oh so good, and the storyline, I have a feeling that it'll work for me. And this last book that I picked up was the #1 priority when I visited this bookstore, because I knew I would be budding reading it for the Aussie April Readathon hosted by Doris and Jacqueline. I am reading this book with them, as well as Britta at Britta Bowler and Natalie at Reading for Days or Reading Days. I will link all of their channels down below, as well as the announcement video to Aussie April, which is of course a readathon in which you read books from Australian authors. And we are reading Year of Wonders by Geraldine Brooks. She happens to be one of the authors that I mentioned in a video in which I talked about the fact that I own multiple books by certain authors but haven't read them, and the irony of the fact that I'm now reading this author but had to go buy another book of hers is kind of good. It's pretty ironic, but we're 2 chapters in. Spoiler alert, I'm really enjoying it thus far. I mean, I'm not even 50 pages in yet, but so far so good. This is a book about the plague in England, I believe. There's a map. Let's look at the map. If I can find the map. No? Let me just awkwardly, like, extend this. Yes, England, in 1666, in which a bunch of cloth is delivered to a small mountain village that was infested with the plague, and how it affects this village. And like I said, so far I'm enjoying it, and I'm excited to continue on with our buddy read. Okay guys, there you have it. Oh, should I share with you all? That was really loud for you, I'm sure. I also, they happened to throw in some bookmarks for us, which I think are super cool. I'm always excited to find, has it focused on that yet? Some bookmarks. So that is what the storefront looks like in Portland at their main location, which is the City of Books location. But we got some of these. So that's always great because, you know, there's no shortage of books around here. But if you guys have read any of these books, please let me know your thoughts, good, bad, or otherwise. As always, you know the drill. You know I want to chat with all of you in the comments down below. And if you don't, or if you haven't read any of these, just let me know what's a new book that you've acquired and added to your shelves, because also on our trip to Portland this weekend, we had to make the stop at IKEA to buy another bookshelf because I didn't have enough room on the 2 new bookshelves behind me. So now there's another one over there. And maybe eventually I'll do a book room tour. If you guys are interested in that, let me know, of course. But otherwise, if you guys like this video, please like it. And if you loved it, please subscribe, and we'll see you in my next video. Happy reading. To just go off and see what he's want. Wow! That went pretty well, Cow. Don't you think? Are you not even gonna look at me? You're just gonna sit in your sister's bed and ignore me. Oh.